quick zoom.
Roger.
Yep. So another one of these
Down.
hexactinellid sponges with a beautiful Relianthus anemone. Relicanthus anemone.
A common pairing out here.
Yeah, it would appear.
But what else are they going to crawl up on
Looks like
or land on?
Come on out. Thank you. Turn and see if we see anything else.
Oh, something else over here. Another gouge. Furrow.
Yeah, looks like another trench. Don't see much in there. Let's see if there's anything over here.
So as we look around, maybe I'll try to continue the explanation of the mud volcanoes.
Okay.
The
Actually,
crust and
what's
upper
this?
mantle of the plate that's overriding the subducting plate. Oops. Shh. No, we got a stalk of something here.
Might just set for this one real quick.
We'll take a quick look first. I'll get back to the mud volcano story. But we must talk
There's just
about
so
what
much-
we're
there's so
zooming
much
in on.
biology.
Yeah. Looks like
I
there are
think it's
things.
just a sponge. I think it's
You
just
think it's
a
just
I think it's
sponge
stalk. Yeah, I think it's a sponge stalk.
There's
But it
something
looks like
on
probably
it, though.
maybe barnacles.
One more
Yeah, maybe
second
barnacles.
video.
There are two little things, two little white things on there. Barnacles
Maybe.
or
video if you wanna
amphipods
come in.
or gastropods? They are amphipods?
I don't know.
I don't know. They're a little,
Oh,
goodness, what are
okay.
that's really
What
sweet.
are they? They look like amphipods. Okay, let's see. Is it Mr. and Mrs. Amphipod again, folks? What's the last one you got there?
Yep, amphipods.
Okay.
Amphipods for sure.
Yeah,
Very cool.
I
On the
learned about
stuff.
I don't know about this stuff, except that I learned from leg one
That
when
one at
Deb
the
Glix
bottom.
and Diva Amon were out here
Beautiful.
that many of
All right, video.
many of these little pairs of amphipods
Could you close up just to get
stick themselves,
both of
climb
Oh,
up
sorry.
on
I
these
was gonna focus on one.
stalks
Oh.
of various
No, I
things
will
and
do-
stay there
Sorry, how's that?
Yeah, perfect.
for lengthy periods. And I think the larger one is the female. And she will brood her offspring right there on the stalk.
Yep.
Lovely imagery,
Male and
isn't it?
female. Yep.
Mhm.
Okay. It's very
Les, are you on a
much
phone
zooming
line?
in.
Would you like to call in and tell us about these?
Yeah.
He says, or they are eucerids, judging by their purple legs. And I do not know what a eucerid is.
Well,
Maybe Les can call in and talk to us.
yeah, I'm not sure he's on a phone line. He is on the chat room, though.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, Washley, are you good on this?
We're good on this. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, we're great on
spotting.
that.
Thank you. Okay. Sounds good. We're moving on.
Moving on to the story of mud volcanoes. Okay, back to the fracturing of the seafloor beneath the surface of the mud volcano. You have to break up the rocks along a fault fracture. So anytime there's an earthquake and the fault moves, it will grind up the rocks that are in contact with one another on the either side of the fault. And because a lot of fluids are being essentially squeezed out of and distilled chemically from the Pacific Plate as it descends, these fluids are released, and the only place they're going to go is up.
Okay.
They squeeze up along the
thank you,
faults
Dad.
and remobilize
Out ahead,
the
you wanna
ground
put in another
up
move?
material
Yeah, there's-
between the
yeah,
fault
I'm fine with it.
traces,
Keep moving.
between the walls of the faults.
Uh,
They react with the material,
Yep, you probably
the
did the same thing.
minerals that are in
Yeah.
the rocks that are
It makes
ground
the
up,
ground.
and they change their composition by basically these minerals are taking on that water in their structure. And by doing so, they expand about
Bridge, this is
25%.
now.
They turn into a different mineral. The mineral they turn into is called serpentine. Serpentine is one of the class of minerals that
let's just keep
are
moving
colloquially
north. So same thing,
known
40
as
meters,
asbestos,
0,
because
0,
they're somewhat fibrous.
0,
And
decimal
this
2
material
knots.
is less dense than surrounding material, so if there's another earthquake and there's some extension that releases the pressure in these fractures, and the material moves up along the fracture surface and erupts onto the seafloor. And over time, and I mean 50 million years, is the oldest of these mud volcanoes. They grow to enormous sizes. The ones that we see on the seafloor are commonly about
mow the
20
lawn a
kilometers
little
in
bit.
diameter,
Yeah.
which is about the size of this one, and 2,000 meters high, which is about the height of this one. But there is one that we have looked at that is the biggest we've found so far, that is 50 kilometers, 50 kilometers in diameter. I put a map of the island of Oahu on the same picture as one of these mud volcanoes. So the mud volcano would completely cover the island of Oahu in Hawaii, to give you a sense of scale for these things. They're
See, this looks
enormous.
like same thing,
The
maybe?
highest point on Oahu is about
Video quick zoom, and let's just see if this is the same thing.
Let's
like
see,
it's about 5,500.
3,000 at the poly.
5,500
So
on
these
Mount
guys
Kahala.
are much taller than Oahu
Washington,
is.
any interest on this?
Let us take a zoom. Yes, we would love
Looks
to
like-
see a zoom, especially
Yeah,
on
it
the top
looks,
of this.
yeah.
So Chris
Well,
can
it
see
looks
the
like
top.
another, and it looks like another
Yeah,
amphipod
let me
as
sit
well.
down for this.
But a
It's
single.
kind of flopping around.
Sure, Roger.
Washington, I'm just going to get a little closer and set.
Okay.
I think
Thank
the
you,
sponge
pilot.
has a cowlick, and that's what's going on.
So watch leads, this is now.
Ha ha ha.
Yeah, go ahead, Nav.
So at this time we have about an hour and a half remaining on the dive, a little bit less. I just wanted to know what is the target of the next 1 hour and a half. Are we gonna try to get to the dive end, or we're just gonna try to keep the pace? Okay. All right, so
All right, video, if you want to come in on this top base.
Yeah, Chris Kelly, does this sort of
Oh, now see, that looks a little bit
yeah,
different.
does this sort
That
of zoom
one-
help you?
That one actually
figure
looks
it
a little
out?
bit different.
Is this the same feature that you think you were seeing
Well, what he was
before?
looking at before was kind of a point, so this one looks
Yeah.
more like it's
But if you
not
looked
as
at it
pointed.
from the
Complex
side, would it look
23.
like a point?
maybe.
Oil's just cool
Don't know.
down again.
Yeah.
Cooling
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, that's what I think. We're looking at a little different perspective. But
Okay.
I think it's the same sponge, and that's a
Okay.
better look at that point. And it
Yeah.
certainly is not a big osculum on top. And the reason I was interested
So
in
we
that
might
is
have to time the ball just right.
some of the Bullosomini do have an osculum right on top, and I wanted to confirm that this guy didn't. So that was just more evidence that it's in the family Rosellidae and perhaps in the genus Caulophacus.
Thank you, Chris. There's also a brittle
Alright,
star
pilot,
on its
so,
left side.
if the
Yep.
watch leads do want to
I
get
only
to
see
the,
4
the
legs,
end of
though.
the dive right here, we need to average about 0.17 knots over the next hour and a half, just to let you guys know.
It's pretty much one
Right.
continuous
So
good. Thanks.
just we
And
have about an hour.
amphipod?
We have about an hour left in the dive, and so
All
we're
right,
going
maybe quick zoom
to
on middle step.
to
Oh, yeah,
move
sure.
along so we can
See
get
if
to
that's
the
anything.
end point
Yep.
that we had
the same.
planned out. Yep,
Right.
nice
And
amphipod there.
This is, we are on the
Rotate a
NOAA
little.
Looking down
Ship
70 degrees.
Okeanos Explorer,
video,
America's ship for exploration. Coming to you live from the Mariana Trench National Monument region,
That was darling.
and we're in the Forearc region of the monument.
All right, got me.
All right, pushing ahead.
Great imagery being provided to you by our intrepid ROV team out in the front of Shirley and me. We are your science leads, and expeditions like this. This is the 2016 Deepwater Exploration
Right now,
of the
so when did our
Marianas.
last move end?
And
Is
these
it
types
still-
of
I
explorations
think
are
we put
only
another one in.
possible
Oh,
through
okay.
successful
So
partnerships
we're
and
moving now.
collaborations.
Okay.
So
believe
this
so.
mission is
I'll
designed and
let you know
supported
when
by
we're
NOAA's
finished with
Office
the
of
last one.
Ocean Exploration and Research. The ship
Yeah, the next
itself
move might
is
just make
operated
like
by
a
NOAA's Office of Marine
continuous move
Aviation Operations.
Yeah,
the
And
waypoint.
our current
Yeah.
cruise is part of a 3-year campaign to address the Pacific Monuments science, technology, and ocean needs. This is acronym is CAPSTONE, so you may hear us say that term.
Always more
It was
trenches.
designed to address the fundamental need of both resource managers and scientists to better understand the
on,
deepest
shark.
parts of the nation's marine monuments. Some of the key partners for this effort are the NOAA National Marine Fisheries, the NOAA Marine National Monuments Program, the NOAA Deep Sea Coral Research and Technology
Yeah, why don't you
Program.
push out ahead, Sean, and then
So aside from bringing you
Yeah, copy that.
ahead
exciting
of it.
mission exploration, the way Okeanos Explorer operates is also unique. All of our operations are community driven. So that means the scientific community gets together and
we'll
talks
send
about
it
what
back
might
to
be
you.
potential dive areas, and the missions are carried out on behalf of the whole science and management community versus what normally happens is by being driven by questions or hypotheses from one individual principal investigator, one scientist. So here we are through telepresence. This technology makes what you folks at home are looking at and hearing right now possible. We're able to have dozens of scientists engaged, like all the folks we've been talking to today on our expedition, and there are only 2 lead scientists sitting here on the ship, Shirley and me, Patty Fryer, and this is more than we could ever be able to fit on one normal research cruise. We have, how many people here? Let's see, 5, 10, 15,
17,
over
about.
20, yeah.
So what direction? So that
As
should get uphill
as
to,
such, our scientists on shore,
Starboard.
they're
I think we just
participating
have
from
little local.
exploration
Yeah, I mean,
command
this is all
centers
within 10
in
meters of
various
each other.
places. They can
Yeah.
be scattered
So,
all over the
vary a little
U.S.
bit, but it's pretty
In
flat.
some instances, we've had them in other countries as well. Some people are talking from home institutions at work today, sitting at their offices, or they may be at home, especially in the East Coast where it's late at night. Shirley
when
was
we're
so
done,
fascinated
then I
with
would
leg
put
1
a
that she
move
was
for
staying up
about
until like
400
2 or 3 in the morning,
True,
sitting there
yeah,
with
yeah.
her jammies,
About
watching the
355,
screen and giving
0.2
comment
knots.
on the
Does
chat
that sound
board.
good?
Let's
So
do
sometimes we'll be
100
reading out
meters.
some of these
Yeah, we can
comments
figure
from
that
the
out.
chat board
Okay.
from our
100 meters
onshore
at-
people.
0.2 is fine.
Okay,
You're
that's
just you're fine with that, Sean?
The
Yeah,
ROV
absolutely.
You
operations.
might want to let Watchley know
so
that
our
we might pick up
pilot,
the pace a little bit.
co-pilot,
Okay.
and navigator are from the Global Foundation for Ocean Exploration, and they not only operate and maintain the vehicles, but they also have been designing a lot of the components and building them, and are continually upgrading the vehicle to be able to enable even more fantastic exploration of the seafloor. So we've picked up 2 samples so far. Picked up a rock at sort of the beginning of the dive, and we also picked up a
Pilot, I think
really
he missed,
unique
a cool jellyfish.
anemone
Just
on
didn't.
a sponge.
I missed
And
it
the rock
completely.
samples will go to the Oregon
Do you
State
think it's anywhere close?
University's archive area. The samples,
Oh,
both the
something
rocks and the
ahead, yeah.
biology samples,
1 sec video.
are accessible to anybody in the scientific community who wants to
Yeah,
take a
sorry,
look
I
at
missed
them and
that
do some
fish. You
analysis.
guys
Great.
saw
This
it?
is NAP.
So we are going to zoom in here on another biological sample, which I think
So
I was
we
gonna
wanna
say
pick
it
up the pace
was,
a little bit, so let's do,
crinoid. Now it looks like
100
another
meters.
anemone on a dead
355.
sponge stalk. What do you think, Shirley? It's kind
And then
of
let's keep
small,
0 decimal
Aft
reddish
starboard
feature in the
side
bottom
is,
of your screen,
on a
right in
hill.
the
See, it's
center.
kicking up
And
stuff
for
on the
those of
rail
you at
cam.
home, it may take a few seconds for it to show up because
Yeah, it's a
it might be a little
Right.
delayed.
It's a sponge stalk with another relicanthus anemone on it.
Rotate.
So we're seeing quite a few
Copy
of
that.
these now.
Just going to need a good rinse tonight.
And again, this gives the anemone the opportunity to get up off of the
Yeah,
bottom,
it
so it
can
can
get
be
its
getting
tentacles
things.
into the
Yeah, very
Sure,
long
yeah.
tentacles out and capture particles in the water column. Beautiful long, just
These
as
are
ones we
so
saw
pretty.
before. Really incredible.
Copy.
And the
We
light,
measured one a little bit earlier that
it's 5
and
or
the
6 feet
tentacles were
long?
about, a couple meters long.
right. Yeah, you
Alright,
can
pilot,
see the
so
shadows of the
that
tentacles
move,
on the
just
seafloor just
started.
at the base
The 100 meters.
of the
Yeah.
stalk.
Thank you, Nav.
We have numerous lights on the booms on
Alright.
the
Clear
front of the
All right,
ROV,
come
and
on
the
out.
pilots are able to move
And I will
those booms,
push
which is another
ahead.
unique feature of this particular ROV. On most that I've used, everything is fixed. The lights are fixed. Some of the cameras are swivelable and zoomable, but with movable lights, you can really maximize the imagery that you get. And we have a very high definition camera situated right in the center, the front of the vehicle. And what the pilot will do if we want to take a look at
Alright,
something
pilot
on the
and co-pilot,
seafloor is
actually, I
position
hope for
the
the move
remotely
to be
operated
at,
vehicle so that camera
355
is
heading.
looking at
So
the
just-
355.
object,
Yeah,
and then
just
he
to let you
may
guys know.
gently maneuver
Works.
the vehicle to follow it or permit the videographers to zoom in to give us a close view. And all these images that we're collecting
Slightly port.
are publicly
Yeah.
available
I'll just
by
do a
request
nice little lateral.
to NOAA's Okeanos Explorer websites. We have a videographer sitting next to us, Annie White, and she is
Come down a
clipping
bit.
some of the highlights from our dive today. And these get put up on the server, and they will be available to
Ed mowed the lawn
folks
here,
on shore to relive the
Yeah,
excitement
sorry, I was actually gonna.
of
That's when
the
they get in a good
ROV's
spot.
dives in
Yeah.
the
just looking at
Mariana
listen.
Yeah, yeah.
Trench Marine
Hey
National
Levi,
Monument.
do you have me on comms?
Pilot,
So we're seeing a lot of
you ready?
sediment encrusted seafloor, pretty
Pilot
flat
Levi,
here.
in the
We are
control?
on the upper flank, very close to the summit of
That
a
should be fine.
serpentinite mud volcano.
Yeah.
What is serpentinite?
Serpentinite refers to the serpentine mineral that the mantle rocks turn into when they are hydrated by these rising fluids.
But when
in
I think of
Tulsa.
serpentine, I
You think of a
snake.
snake, right? You do, and that is why the mineral is named serpentine, because it's a greenish color. And when it was originally talked about by ancient Romans, it was called serpentine because it looked like snakes.
So the the rocks themselves looked like snakes, or the
color.
mineral? Oh,
No,
okay.
It was just
All
the
right. Will
color.
you show me that if we collect a sample?
I definitely will. If it shows up, I'll take you outside and we'll look at the one we picked up yesterday.
Okay.
With the serpentine
Those-
mud.
that was
on it.
that was actually a beautiful rock.
It was.
It was a beautiful
Cool.
rock. It was big too. Is that the one that that's the one that broke in half?
No, the other one, the one that's encrusted with mud.
Was the
Yes.
Oh.
The mud itself was
So you know what
the
happened?
serpentine flow.
You know what happened to that when Matt picked it up and put
the
it
mud
on?
fell off.
No. But when he put it on the
Pilot.
scale to weigh it, it kind of like splatted
when
out
you were
all
using
over.
Oh,
It was
these
funny.
I'm not surprised. The muds, the mud flows
gooey.
that we have tried to sample with the Alvin submersible and with the Shinkai 6500 submersible, the Japanese submersible.
So
When we
push
put
out
the
too
manipulator
far, 'cause,
claw into,
you have a whole lot of time right now.
ooh,
Ship's
what is
underway,
this
though.
guy? We have a black thing.
Yeah.
Now, is it on a stalk?
No. Okay,
Then-
Patty. Come on,
It's a
Patty.
holothurian, and it's swimming. Oh, this is going to be fun, folks. Hang on to your seats, because these things are the most graceful
They are
critters
beautiful,
I've ever
really
seen
beautiful.
when they swim. They have a beautiful sort of a flange around the tops of their bodies, and they wriggle in. Oh, it's opening it up. Oh, it's so gorgeous. And the bottom part is the back end.
Okay to take
Yeah,
one more
The
and
upper
you can
part
see,
is the
right?
top
You
end.
can see.
You can see things inside.
You can
this
see
animal.
things inside. You can see what it ate
Right.
and digested.
So you're actually the curved
isn't that
white, light colored red. That's
Part of it's- yeah.
its gut,
Yeah.
You're
And,
pulling me.
and the little
yep. You got it.
So
Go ahead.
flippers on the back. Oh, look at the
Kind
way
of
it
Isn't that
port,
moves.
beautiful?
lateral,
Yeah, and I'm
pull,
kind of
turn
like an
into it.
umbrella.
Pilot, can you go up?
Zoom out video.
Roger.
You're back in.
It's
about
called
to hit.
Pelagothuridae,
Yeah.
Enipniastes species from Tara Harmer Luke. Oh, sorry, that was from Chris Kelly.
If we can follow this in the water column,
It's
and let
so
it
pretty. I
swim.
remember the
So
very
gorgeous.
first time I ever saw one of
Me
these.
too.
I was in the Johnson Sealing sub. And
Where were you?
I'm thinking we were in the Galapagos.
Because I've seen them out here a lot.
Yeah, and I had never seen a pelagic holothorian
Yeah,
before.
me either.
And I was like,
Just-
what is that? And
just
honestly, it was
thrilled.
absolutely
It's so graceful.
incredible, just incredible, especially when you think of these holothorian. I mean, I have to tell you that holothorians
On
kind
the
of
seafloor?
don't
Yeah.
look all that graceful
No, they're
or
just
elegant.
kind of
They're just
blobbing
like
along.
long pooping
You
blobs.
don't have much time, pilot.
And
Yeah,
and
look
these
at
are
this.
just
There's this little
absolutely
mantle draped
spectacular.
down
In fact,
over its
right,
back.
the fact that they're purple, it makes it even more spectacular.
let me
Yes.
Because you
check
see
that
so
ship
few
Pull out video.
animals down here that are
bright
brightly
colors.
colored
Ship
like
move?
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me know if you need a ship.
Oh, it's great.
to
Of
start
course,
the
it's
ship.
actually
Oh,
darkly
yeah, no,
colored.
we're fine.
Pilot.
Keep it moving. So pilot's going to push out ahead now that he's
Yeah.
clear. And you need to come port as well.
So the sedimented seafloor that we were looking at, when we get back down, we're now 2.5 meters above the seafloor at a depth of 3,305 meters. And as we descend back to the seafloor, what you'll be seeing is a light-colored sediment. Actually, the sediment, the pelagic material, particles of ash and wind-blown clay from
degrees, yeah,
China. These kinds of materials are sort of a medium
Good
to
big
dark
move
brown.
here.
The reason that this seafloor looks so light-colored
My
is that
heading's
it
back
has a
aligned.
lot of the shells of one-celled organisms
If you wanna
called
push out ahead, I can
foraminifera
come down.
scattered
Yeah,
all
grab
over
this
it,
real quick. Come in.
accumulating
Snap
on
zoom,
the
see what we got.
surface.
Just identification.
And the black things are rocks. And now we are looking at an upside-down shrimp. And it's turning over
That's it. I
and
can't
over
flip down
and
anymore.
over.
Yeah, why don't you push out ahead and I'll come down and then you'll have some more time.
It's probably caught in the currents from what we call the prop wash. I mean, the propellers of the submersible kind of create a little turbulence in front of the ROV sometimes. If you take a look in your second feed on the bottom below the image on your screen, you have 3 feeds. The one in the middle shows you the image of the remotely operated vehicle, D2, from the vehicle that is suspended above it on a 30-meter cable, and it's called Sirius. And it is
You're looking good
drawn
now.
along primarily by the
Copy
ship,
that,
although it does
47.
have its own propulsion. The propulsion is kind of weak. But we have to position the ship and Sirius
look around
in order
here.
to be able to
Yeah.
give the ROV enough slack in the 30-meter tether to be able to explore the seafloor, kind of wander over to the port or the starboard and go up and down a little bit.
Watch leads. This is Nav.
Yes, Nav, go ahead.
You might have noticed we picked up the pace a little bit in the last few minutes
He's
to
gonna form
make
right
it
into
to the dive end. Okay, just to
Roger.
let you know.
That's great. No, that's fine. Thank you.
So it looks like
Wonder
now
how
we
to
can
tether
start.
that way.
Yeah, we're seeing little burrows.
We are. The little white patches are from burrowing animals. And we don't see any more of those deep gouges from something. A lot of speculation about what was making the deep gouges and around lunchtime. Out
Yeah, look
here,
at these
so it's
burrows
about an
now.
hour and a half ago.
Yeah, look at
Yep.
these mounds
Oh,
and burrows.
there are mounds. Let's go. Pilot, can we zoom on those mounds?
Yes, we can. Video come on in.
I know you're moving a bit quick, so if it's
you
a
repeat
fast
that?
snap,
Can you come
that's
on in?
fine.
We want to see the mounds a little bit. That's good right there.
Let's see if we can see anything poking out of them.
Anything like
Do a survey here.
mounds
so
and
you see-
burrows. Burrows.
Do seem to be
Sounded like
some
you said
clusters
out.
of what we were
Oh, sorry.
earlier calling fecal pellets. The slightly
Watch leads.
darker.
Are you trying to talk to Nav?
Sorry, I am not.
Oh, never mind.
Okay. I have removed the talk button. Sorry. Okay, I'm not seeing anything poking its head out of any of the
Give it
tops
to
of
you,
these
come out.
little mounds.
Didn't see it
Okay.
there. Thank you.
Maybe they're sleeping, taking a noontime nap.
Just keep an eye on your Sirius cam. So you need to come to starboard.
Ooh, brittle
Okay, well,
star.
I'll try to get that.
Brittle
You're
star.
pulling me now.
Okay.
You can see on the far left coming toward the middle of the screen, a couple of little white horizontal lines on the seafloor, and those are the arms of a brittle star that we're going to take a peek at. I'm getting good on brittle stars.
Getting good at a lot of these.
I don't know.
Should have enough time to get there, I think. Maybe.
Well, I like the biology.
Well, I've been learning over the years. I used to call these thingies, but now I've been working with you guys so much.
You've been calling them what? Thingies?
Thingies.
Thingies. That was
I've
Roland.
graduated to ophiroids and brittle stars.
Okay, so
I was calling them
Roland Bryan,
bio stuff.
Bryan, one of our videographers, said that he has just graduated from calling these
Okay, video coming in.
thingies to calling them
brittle
stars.
Ah, this one has its central node on the seafloor.
Disc. But very similar to the others that we saw.
Yeah, they are.
The ones we saw doing push-ups.
Yeah. I don't think we've seen any other kind of brittle star except maybe that tiny one on the side of the sponge. I don't remember seeing anything else. But, folks, notice that the arm pointing down to the lower right is significantly shorter than some of the other arms.
So remember earlier when we saw those ossicles in the Holothurian? The little
little white,
little white things.
Little white
Okay, so Scott
sticks.
shared with us at that time that these segments of the ophiuroid arms, the brittle star arms that we see, are actually large fused ossicles. So you know how we saw the little,
right?
little little microscopic things we saw inside. Calcium carbonate things we saw, thingies that we saw inside the sea cucumber.
Technical term, right?
Right. So in ophiuroids, and even for some crinoid arms as well, the fact that they're like they look like vertebrae. They're actually fused ossicles.
Oh, cool! Giving them some strength.
Right.
Well, what I am learning about this mud volcano is that it hasn't erupted a lot recently. It's covered with sediment here that is derived from both the water column and, well, I guess it's all from the water column except for the rocks. There is a little bit of scarp on the west side of this mud volcano that
And by scarp we mean cliff face.
A cliff face.
Yes.
Well, scarp represents the vertical portion of a fault, or a landslide scar.
Okay.
And these mud volcanoes, because the mud flows have the consistency often of cream cheese, if there's any seismicity in the area, they kind of jiggle like jello, and their flanks may fail,
70 degrees,
and you get a big landslide lump on the flank of the seamount, and usually it's the flank pointing toward the trench. Zoom on a shrimp with a blue patch on its back.
The rocks there. Thank you, Copilot.
Oh, trying to get away.
Move again.
Little legs moving like crazy. We are at 3310 meters, 3,310 meters, and about a meter off the seafloor.
How many times have we looked at those xenothiophores?
Our heading at the moment is about 40 degrees, 40 degrees.
I think we were looking at them
slightly west of north.
When I stepped in.
All right, we are in search of the octocoral garden.
Yeah, we are indeed.
Scott is going into withdrawal. We haven't seen it. Okay, so ahead of us we're seeing another sponge, hexactinellid sponge, and on its stalk we're seeing, and what's the anemone's name?
I forget.
No,
but it's a
don't.
red one.
No, you don't forget.
Oh, don't I?
No. Oh, she's looking really.
I'm
No
looking it
cheating,
up.
no cheating.
Okay, well, it's only got the
Relicanthus. Relicanthus.
Rollicant?
Really, Relicanthus.
Is this what you said was named for a collie?
Relicanthus Daphne. Yes, for Daphne Fountain.
For Daphne Fountain. Okay.
Well, I don't know if this particular species is. Oh, wow, this is a nice one also. Beautiful, long tentacles. Just out there waving in that
So when we're finished
current.
with this move, you can add another 100 meters to it in the same bearing and the same speed.
And Fernando, when we continue to
Deb
move,
Glixon
always
is
repeat the
saying
bearing
that
and speed.
this is exactly like the
Just
mud
for
volcano
clarification.
that they dove on in leg 1.
It is. It is.
Exactly like
Yep.
it. And that was much further south, right?
Yeah,
so just
it was.
confirm that it is
And
0.2
I had
knots at due
tried
north.
to. Well, I have a beautiful
Can you repeat that, Bridge?
bathymetry image of that, and also high-resolution side scan imagery that shows that it is indeed a monogenetic, in other words,
Copy
a single conduit feature
Yes.
that has circular flow fronts all around it.
Yeah, Scott. Hey, Scott, did you... Yeah, Scott put on a sunglass.
What? Oh, his sunglasses thing? What does
Yeah,
that mean?
Scott, talk to us. Sunglass alert. It means I would like to say something. Talk to us, Scott.
Oh, I was just going to say about these relicanthus, these sea anemone-like things. What's so fascinating is that we are only seeing them on these sponge stalks, and that's because they need a hard surface on which to grow, apparently. We don't see them on the soft sediments. And so what struck me as interesting is how on earth are the larvae of these anemone finding those sponge stalks? I mean, look at all of the
right
space
down
here
at you.
and how narrow
90
and
degrees.
small those sponge stalks are. And, you know, the larva has to come in contact with it in order to settle and grow. And then the other interesting thing is there's always only one per stalk.
Okay, so this is like totally... Oh, yeah, yeah, go ahead, Deb.
So what Scott was saying, makes perfect sense. But so how come the relicanthus aren't colonizing the rock outcrops, the few rock outcrops that we're seeing?
Good question.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Deb. And I had wondered earlier if perhaps the rocks weren't tall enough. But some of these relicanthus look like they're not all that far above the bottom, and we have, seen a few of these rock outcrops that are tall. So I don't know if it has something to do with the surface of the rock, the texture, that, I don't know, somehow these larvae know this is a thin manganese coating on sediment and it's going to fall apart, who knows. But it's a great question and one that would take some creative hypotheses and sampling to be able to answer.
Can I ask you folks a question then? I have heard many times from my biological colleagues that the manganese oxide coatings are mediated by microbes, and if there are if there's microbial action, oh my goodness, we have a
trash.
We have a can
Trash.
Blah.
Okay.
Can't even tell what it is.
Okay.
But
thanks, pilot. Keep
but
going.
if the manganese coating, and there's a brittle star under it. Oh dear. Okay, so if the manganese coating has microbes active on it, could they be creating some... Oh, we have some other thing. Sorry.
Okay.
Couldn't make it hard for the anemones to live there.
Here's what's really interesting. Asako was just talking about that there are some octocorals on the soft substrate, such as the sea pen, but we cannot see them.
Here we are,
There's
Asako.
Okay, video. Nicely
Okay, so what are we looking at here?
Oh,
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!
Octocoral garden for Scott.
Okay.
Thank you, co-pilot.
Nope. It is a yep.
Watch lead, is this a potential collection or?
It is of interest. Hang on, I'll let you know.
Not going to be able to
I'll need to know.
Are you moving?
I'm looking down at him, and I need to stop the ship and back up.
So this,
Okay,
this is,
folks.
this is an octocoral.
Yeah, do we want this as a sample?
Commonly known as a sea pen. And
Keep
the
going.
sea pens are a type of octocoral that are specially adapted to live in soft
Not
sediment.
much time.
And so they do have an
90
unbranched
degrees.
skeleton in there. So one
kind of stick.
Okay, but you can pull out.
And there is one giant polyp which encloses that skeleton, and at the base of it, it has an inflated bulb that inflates into the sediment.
Cool.
And then growing off that one giant polyp are all those other smaller octocoral polyps that you see that are much more characteristic of all the other colonies we've been seeing on hard substrate.
Oh, yeah. Anemone. It's red.
Yep, and
that's
right,
kind of anemone.
and there's an anemone
on a rock.
Yep, on a rock. But we are moving, so we're not gonna. If we have to ask the ship to stop and reposition, we are going to take about 30 minutes or so to reposition. And since we only have about how much time do we have left?
Right now we have about 56 minutes.
Okay, so a little bit less than an hour for the rest of this dive.
So if that's important, we need to know immediately.
No, yeah. So if there's something that you see that we really do want to collect, you really need to let us know right away. Oh, wow.
Cool.
Beautiful.
Look at those.
Doesn't want to get hit by the ROV.
He went right underneath.
Just to let you know, Nav and Pilot, we would like to get a rock sort of toward the end of the dive.
Well, okay.
Copy that, watch leads. At our pace right now, we should get to the end of the dive in about 15 minutes.
Okay, you're looking good now.
15 or 50? 50. Okay, thank you.
You're fine now.
Thank you, Fernando.
Let's see what we got. Ooh. I
And
think I see something on top of this rock.
about at the end of your
I
tether.
think we should look at the
Let's
top of
see
the
what we
rock,
got
don't
right
you,
here.
Shirley?
Seems to be a mound that all of these rocks are on.
Yeah.
Agreed.
like a
Oh,
little
there's something up
crinoid.
there. And it's
I think I'm
got
at the end of my leash,
things
so I
sticking
can,
up in the air.
explore around and come back to them in a second.
Yeah, these rock collections that we keep seeing look like they're on a slight swelling of the surface, and this would be consistent
just
with
hang out at the end of your tether in
occasional
case they do want to sample.
burps
And we don't have
of
to back
mud.
the ship up.
The rocks get carried up in individual eruptions, and because this mud can be winnowed and eroded by currents on the seafloor, the rocks may be the remainder of small tongues or burps of serpentinite mud. If and when we do get to see a fresh flow, you will see a startling greenish color and perhaps a mid-blue. There were some animals on the tops of some of these rocks.
Yes, there was one crinoid over here.
So why don't you lateral to port and stay in front of Sirius? You're pulling me now.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, on the top of that big one.
Yeah.
On the top of the big one to the left.
Are we happy, Copilot?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I saw a crinoid from a distance or if it one of those relicanthus. So if it was a relicanthus, that would be interesting.
Yeah, it would be.
Rock here.
Yeah, it would be interesting. I think it's a crinoid, but I am not sure. We're gonna.
Yeah, that was my
Yeah, it's
first
right near
thought,
the
but
right near the lasers.
Stay about
just above the
quick
lasers.
here video, and then I'll let you in.
Zoom on your command.
On the big rock.
Okay, hold on a second.
Yeah, Sirius is a bit behind us. So as we move this direction, it
Okay, video, come
will
in.
be carried forward, so we can be here for a little bit.
Oh, there's a
Crinoid.
crinoid.
Very nice.
Beautiful.
Very small.
There's another on the back side.
This
Yeah.
thing
Little
in total
pinnules,
is about
Maybe-
5-6 inches in diameter. Maybe
Yeah, like a
12 or
You're
so.
about 2.5 meters
Maybe a
off the
little
seafloor.
more. The
Centimeter.
dots are 10 centimeters
10
apart,
centimeters apart.
about 4 inches apart. So
Well out of light.
yeah, it's a small guy.
We collected a crinoid yesterday. It was one that had those very long cirri.
3 meters off the seafloor.
And
was clinging
they
to a
were
rock.
really, I'll tell you what, it came up in pretty good condition, but after we got it out of the water.
Yeah.
It was, you know, it's very fragile, but those cirri were really, really long. So, yeah, really cool. And it also had gonadal tissue on it.
Oh, did it?
Mm-hmm.
Like straight
Yep.
left of lasers, maybe stuff on those rocks to the left.
So it was incubating.
It looks like maybe it's
Brood, what is that? Brood pouch?
A brood pouch. Yes, it was
halfway between
brooding.
lasers and left leg.
Okay, over
And now
here.
there's a big stalk on the left, which I'm sure they want to look at.
Now, what is that? Over on
What?
the left-hand side, it looks like
Oh,
some kind of a
something
stick or
long?
something. Yeah.
Oh, and it looks like it's attached to the rock, so it's a huge sponge
Wow.
stalk
No, no, no,
that the rock
No.
fell over.
no.
Okay, well, we'll get a good look. We'll see.
Sure, it's
We'll
not
Got a
zoom on
holdfast
it.
down there. It's huge.
trash of some sort. I don't know.
Looks like
I don't
it's
know. Looks like it's
stuck to the
attached
rock.
that rock.
Yep, that's what
You're
I
kidding.
thought.
Really?
I
That
think it's a
big?
sponge stock.
We need to rotate more around to your right.
Okay, sponge
See
lady,
the opening.
let us know what it is.
Looking down.
Well, it's pretty darn big.
Yeah,
Right now the
it's
camera's at 90
huge.
degrees. Not much.
Give
It
it, come in
is.
for a minute.
Oh, this is cool. Is it fibrous? It is not a plunger. It's stuck to that rock good.
Definitely stick to the rock. We can look at the.
Let's look at the
of it.
end.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure this is a sponge
Fibrous.
stock also,
Yeah.
and probably in the subfamily Bolosomini, Euplectellid, perhaps.
Oh, what's it got stuck to the
Um,
end of it? Look, it's
and
the tiny little
Crinoid.
thing
I
with
think
arms.
probably what happened to it, we can see what its fate was. It settled out on a rock that was too small, and it kept growing and growing and growing, and then at some point it was too big, and it fell
A
over
whole lot of time.
and died.
Yes.
Like this is one of the things we're looking at down here. So I guess,
Copy that.
you know, it's very popular right now, these that show the tiny house hunters, and I think buyer beware. If your house is a little too small, bad things can happen.
Push.
Pushing out.
That stalk was what, maybe 40 centimeters,
Yeah, at
50
least.
centimeters
Possibly a little
long.
slight
It was huge
downhill
and
slope,
thick
but
too.
it'd be very mild and
Chris looked kind of
We'll be coming
hollow
up
to me
soon
too.
enough.
I'd be real curious
pushing.
to see
Push out.
what
Pushing out.
species of sponge makes those gigantic stalks like that. I've never seen anything quite that large. Very interesting.
It is.
Well, the other interesting thing is that none of the sponges that we've seen down here have been attached to the rocks. They've all been anchored in the sediment. So this is kind of unusual. This is the first one that we're seeing that was actually attached to a rock.
be ready to
So
keep
it's probably
moving.
been down here for a very, very, very long time.
Right.
And yes, there was a tiny crinoid on top. And yesterday,
Oh, that's what it
Allison,
was.
yeah, it was a
Oh,
crinoid,
okay.
really tiny. And yesterday,
Yep.
Allison Miller
What
was
do you guys think?
checking
I mean,
our
at
event
the
log
current
a little
pace
bit later,
of
and she said that
0.2,
none of these have been
we'll
reported
get
Really?
from this area.
6
Yeah,
minutes
so
Wow.
definitely new. So
That's
more,
that's perfect.
more-
I mean,
Is that okay? Because
that's
they want to do a
155.
sample.
that's fine.
But, okay.
Yeah,
Okay, so we'll
it'll
keep
be
it
easy
at,
to sample in this
okay.
area.
So we'll keep it at 0.2.
Yeah.
Just curious what this little white thing is.
Nav,
that's
watch
there.
lead.
who are you trying to call? Where are the watch leads?
Watch lead nav.
It's
Go ahead now.
small shell or something.
Okay, Nav, I was just thinking,
See it? It's got the curved swirls.
Yeah. I'll sit down on the ground and then I'll get stable for you.
Full wide.
Actually,
So
Okay, closer.
you want us to just move not as fast?
yes, that is
Okay,
correct.
okay,
Thank
okay,
you.
copy that.
Yeah, not quite
So,
as fast.
let's see what else we got rolling.
We can definitely move slower, but we will not wait.
So I was suggesting
Or we
that
will not,
maybe because
we can move slower, but
Map on it.
we will not get to the dive in
understood,
point.
understood.
Right.
Yeah, the seafloor is just.
So we can slow it down to 0.1 on the next move.
All right. I'll do that. We still have about.
Say we look at all this pebbly stuff. If we can sit down softly.
We still
Take
have
an
about
image of
4
that.
minutes, so after that I'll just call.
Still a good video if I sit down here?
Yeah.
Okay.
What should
So
I call
go
out?
for it.
100?
Same bearing. Yeah, just do 100 at point 1. It's fine.
Once
Okay,
we
that's
set
good.
down,
Copy
you
that.
tilt your camera up. Almost.
In
all
fact,
the
you
way
could
down.
call the bridge now and just ask him to slow down to point 1. Why don't you just go ahead and do that?
Okay, copy that.
Oh, thank you.
Tilt all the way down.
That's great. Thank you.
Tilt down?
Yes, all
Okay.
the way down. We want to get as close as
Yeah,
Bridge,
there.
this is now.
Oh,
Copy that.
this is older. You know, looks like
So there's this
oh,
little
these are-
rebel,
Can
another
we actually slow
pteropod.
down to 0.1 knots?
yeah.
The rest keeping the same move.
Okay, what do we see on the rocks?
What are these
Just more
rocks?
of these.
What are these rocks? Tell us about the
Tell
rocks.
them
Well,
just
I was
tack on
going to
100 at point
say
1.
that they are
Okay, so
manganese
let's
covered.
do 100 meters.
These are
with the
pebble-sized
same bearing,
fragments.
355
Lots
at
of them.
0.1 knots.
And the seafloor in general is covered with more of the pebbles than we saw on the
Okay.
other lump.
That is
Lift
correct.
off, I'll pull out
So
as
we
you lift
are,
off. Continue on.
let's see, where is the ROV? There it is. Yeah, so we're heading up
100
the
degrees,
other
time to
lump.
push
And I
up.
think it may, in
We'll
fact,
copy that,
be
yeah. Or pilot.
an older lump.
Yeah, and Les Watling is observing that in some of these trenches now that we're seeing,
Yeah.
these little
This fluffy
grooves,
stuff.
that we're seeing some fluffy stuff.
Good
Yeah.
copy, Bridge.
But we've
Thank
seen
you.
that before. We saw that in all of the earlier troughs, that these little
Yep, punch out.
narrow and shallow troughs. There's a lot more bioturbation of these little white areas where creatures are digging into the seafloor.
Grind eye there. You have time for it?
Yeah.
Actually,
Oh, there's something, crinoid with its arms up in the air.
Yep.
Crinoid on that rock? Oh, you're right. This doesn't look like a crinoid. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe crinoid. Arms up in the air. Catching stuff
Hall
out
of
of the
Thurian
water.
on the right, too, huh?
coming in for a landing.
We would like to see
There's
this
the
thing.
sea cucumber that we just
quarter.
passed on the right.
Back
It's
there.
off screen
Oh.
right now.
Sea cucumber on the right, off screen right now when we're done with this.
Yeah,
creature.
maybe after the sea star we could take a look at that.
Right, relaying that to the pilot.
Oh, really pretty. Beautiful
Yeah,
sea
that's
star.
a sea star.
Oh my gosh, how
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
is
Pretty
that?
high on the vertical thrust, and you see all the sediment you're kicking up.
Copy
You're at
that.
45.
Are those
yeah.
structures that are coming off of the arms called pinnules? I don't remember.
Chris would know.
It's no problem
Chris
at all.
Kelly.
Scott.
Or
Scott.
Scott.
Take your time.
Yep, or Starman.
Or Starman. Starman hasn't called us today.
Les is
Sure.
waiting to say something. Talk to us, Les.
Sorry, I dusted it video. Came in a little hot.
Okay, then go straight into the arm.
I don't think Les is on the phone, and I don't think he understands the symbol he's using.
So, yes.
Okay.
I don't think those are pinnules. I believe they're spines. And I know Chris has talked a lot about these
Yeah.
resinged
So Copa, if they want to see
asteroids.
this,
So these are
Copa
sea
might-
stars,
we'll-
but
we'll-
instead of feeding
Yeah, we're
from
just have to go
material
fly by.
that's on the bottom, they are capturing food
Yeah, I
out
saw
of
it
the
to the
water
right.
column.
Okay, so
And
right.
each
Why
of
don't you
those
take a peek
spines
and
is
then
covered
you
by
can see it.
tissue.
Sirius, actually,
And
I think
he has
that's it.
described
Off your
it, or
starboard.
it's been written in a paper, that it's kind of like a little sock covered with spines
Take a
like
quick
Velcro
look and then
that are able to
shut
capture
ahead.
things out of the water column, and then they get transferred down to the mouth,
Oh, yeah,
which
okay.
is facing downwards in the center of that oral disc.
Cloud I made here.
I'm not certain.
Thank
but I
you,
believe the
Scott.
left-hand
Thanks very
side of
much. The black thing is
Let's snap zoom and we got to go.
Thurian?
Snap zoom, and then we have to move.
Yeah, but we're slowing down. So
That's fine.
We'll get
Is
out ahead
that
and we'll be all right.
That's okay.
Okay, video, come in.
Oh, it is.
It is. Great.
And it's one of the purple guys. I love them. That's what we saw swimming earlier. Oh, isn't
Okay,
it
let's go.
cute?
Oh, look, and it's pooping.
It is?
We prefer to think of that as extreme.
Okay, push out.
Okay. Time
It's
go.
going to jump up and swim. Too bad we can't watch. It'll be swimming behind the ROV.
Dumping ballast as it was.
Yeah. Little white thing on the seafloor. Probably a tunicate.
We gotta do a drive
Chunk of tunicate shell. I don't know. Oh, and a sponge in the distance. You see
Another stock
the
sponge.
dark
Yeah, a lot of
streaks
stock
along the seafloor at
Yeah.
the base of the rocks?
Right.
I think that's representative
going.
of current. spalling off
One more time.
material from those
So
rocks.
around the rocks.
Yeah. And you get a little bit of a sort of a vacuum vortex behind them, and material is dumped there.
Relatively speaking.
We are coming to you live from
Big rock.
the NOAA ship Okeanos Explorer.
And there's something on the top on the left of that
Yeah.
rock. I like that rock. Okay, crinoid or sea star. And the rock looks to be somewhat
I'll get you closer,
layered.
Do it
The
with a
layers
partial zoom,
oriented
keep
down
going if you need.
to the left.
Got a second.
Okay.
Let's try it floating here. You can get in there.
Partial.
It's not a crinoid. I think it's another sea
Just
star.
past the- up to the left of that thing, do you see the other?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Fuzzy.
I wonder if
I
I can
think.
If I sit
Yep.
down, I think I might be too low to see that one at this angle.
I agree.
This is interesting because
It's the
it's
sea cucumber
a
down right below you.
it's another protingen, but this time with its arms down instead of held
Yeah.
up into the water.
That's right.
Right. So they're taking advantage of different ways to feed.
Well, no, I would just call this resting. Quotes resting.
Yep, that's what I
Still
said.
a suspension feeder, but it's not holding its arms up right now.
Maybe
Not
it
sure if
is.
that's because there isn't a strong enough current here,
I'll
or it's
tilt
already
down.
eaten, or what the reason is.
Okay.
Yeah, its disc looks pretty puffy.
Yep, digesting.
Yeah, and there's something over just to the left.
Back to you.
Oh, with
Yeah.
yeah.
Very.
You can see.
Very
I think,
tiny,
I think
very
you've seen
delicate.
it, Pilot, on the top of the rock.
Yeah,
Very
I'll try
tiny
to
thing
get
up
to
there.
that.
Oh well.
It's really small. Let's try
Yep.
try my best to hold it.
No problem. And so that's very interesting. It's so
Something in the water.
diverse.
There's
yeah.
something. Maybe
We
in
document
Looks
that
like
one
a
good?
shrimp.
Yep. Keep moving. Okay.
Les Watling said perhaps that star was just tired of holding its arms up.
So, yep.
We get a lot of interesting
Pay attention
comments
to
in
what
our
direction
chat
you need to
log.
be moving.
Yeah.
So watch your port rail on the rock.
That little creature with all the tentacles behind the sea star might have been a polychaete worm with
Turn
its
a little bit further north.
arms extended, or
And off
feet,
past your
arms,
right
right?
foot, something
Not
weird
arms.
White.
Arms, tentacles,
It's
things,
behind you now.
biological things,
Um,
tentacles.
I think I have time.
Wow, the seafloor is really
There's, a black dot above
devoid
your
of
right
pebbles here.
foot
How
that is
bizarre.
making a line
It's about as bizarre as those burrows,
right of where
furrows,
it would be
grooves,
without
Grooves, thingies.
thingies, geological thingies.
I don't think they were geological. I think they were
call
biological.
when you need to
Where
go,
there's been a
pilot.
lot of discussion about whether they're from whales or sharks or we don't know what.
Is this what you're talking about?
Box cores.
coming to the right edge.
No, box core would leave a
The right foot.
funk and then it
Okay, yeah,
closes and lifts up.
80 degrees.
It would leave a square
Talking about these marks down
hole.
here.
Nope, it's to the upper right-hand corner.
Oh wow.
Interesting.
See
little
now those look
divots.
yeah.
These look
Again,
like
still like a kind
oh
of
yeah, you can see
a
the
kind of
radiating
dome.
right
Yeah,
on the bottom of the
radiating
screen going
arms,
off the
yeah.
bottom.
so
Yeah, so these are probably
burrowing,
some sort
yeah,
of
burrowing.
worms
Well, or brittle. I
Oh
mean, it
look,
could
you
be
can see
brittle
them
stars.
sticking up.
Okay.
The little black thing sticking up.
Well, I'm not.
See
sure
the
that-
little
I
black-
do,
90
I do,
degrees.
but
I know what they
could
are.
you
Take
also
a
see
nice
just
little black thing real
Yep.
quick, and then we'll head out of here.
Okay.
yeah,
Very small.
Oh, those
Yeah.
same little
yeah, polychaetes, yeah, polychaetes. But then Patty,
then
over
there
to
was
the
something-
lower
yep,
left, it
to the
looked
lower
like
left,
with
right.
radiating arms. So it could be a brittle
worm,
star.
so-
No, it could be. It had radiating arms out.
Right, but there are places where I've
Okay,
seen
time for you to
holes in the sediment with a lot of radiating traces
yeah,
around them.
where their tentacles could go out
Yep.
and kind of. Yeah.
Well, they just it's
Push
a
out, we're
thing that
definitely
has a
moving
single
0.1
tentacle,
now.
but it just sort of
Slower, so-
whacks it out onto the seafloor and
You
then
push out, you won't
retracts
be
it
as
and
rushed.
brings with it whatever it's picked
Copy
up on
that.
the seafloor. And then
Patty,
it'll do
you're
it again and
describing
again.
a spoonworm. an ichthyorhyn worm that builds a burrow
Right.
and unfurls a very long muscular proboscis to gather food around it. And when it's retracted, it does leave like these sunburst patterns on the sediment.
Thank you, Chris. Or was that Scott?
No, I think it was Scott. I think it was Scott.
Well, you know.
Scott.
Oh, Scott.
Oh, thank you, Scott. Yeah, I'm having a hard time telling you two apart, except that Chris's jokes are much worse.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
I am deeply wounded. I am deeply hurt.
Okay, we are seeing a transition here from mostly sediment-covered
Yep.
surface, almost entirely tailless.
This
Pebbles, little pebbles.
tiny little pebbles. Yeah, not really tailless, which would be a collection of stuff that had fallen off a higher slope and collected in kind of a tongue or a fan.
Where did this come from?
This may be from in place. I'm thinking this stuff is little pebbles covered with manganese. And we're looking at a worm, right? Polychaete worm?
Could be.
That's a big, no, it's not. Never mind.
Okay. Was that a joke, Chris?
No, I was going to say it's a fish, just the way it was moving, but I don't know. Maybe not.
Think it's a polychaete worm. I'm getting good.
I don't think it's a polychaete.
I think it's an entropneust worm, an acorn worm.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I saw these old red ones last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, doesn't have legs. I agree. Acorn worm. Shirley Pomponi says. All right, now 209.
Well, and Scott France puts the correct name.
Okay.
Scientific name.
That's okay.
I'm not sure. Let me see. Do we have a code? Yep, we sure do. ENT. E-N-T.
Okay.
I'll try to get out a little further, hopefully.
We do have a darker surface here with lots of teeny pebbles and very few rocks.
The white swimming.
Yeah.
I'm very suspicious that these are manganese nodules. Tiny, tiny. Oh, look at this.
Oh,
pretty.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
This guy's been feeding on the bottom.
Oh my gosh, look at that. Yes, it does look like, oh my gosh, it looks like a holothurian.
It does look like a holothurian.
And
little
it's just totally transparent.
Oh, and look how
except
beautiful
it's got,
it is. And tentacles on the front. Oh, I love these guys. Oh, closer zoom, please.
Okay, Cobalt, if you take my rotator.
Sure.
Oh, man.
Then,
Well, now you
This
can
is fun.
clearly
Track
see
it.
what end is what.
Indeed.
no doubt about
The upper
this.
end, you can see it has modified tube feet
Yep.
that are used for feeding, and so I think that's what you've been sometimes been calling tentacles.
Yeah.
I think they are
Erroneously.
sometimes called
Back up if you
oral
want.
tentacles or oral tube feet. And they modify it into
Tilting up.
almost like little fingers, little hands, and each
Yeah.
one of those
Hold
could, when it's on the bottom,
come up if you tilt
grab
down.
a fistful of sediment, if you will,
Ha.
and
Really
stick it
hard
in
to
the mouth.
gauge
And
that tilting
you
down.
can see the intestine clearly
Oh,
outlined
yeah.
there by the sediment that's contained within it.
It's inside your limbs housing.
Yeah.
So the mouth
So
end
the
is up.
sediment inside the gut sort of reveals that this isn't an obligate pelagic species, that it has to be on the ground at some point feeding on the sediment. And so I guess that would rule out the family Pelagotheridae if I understand things right, but I'm not positive.
For a ride in my prop wash.
Impressive.
But you know what, Chris, it looked like when we saw the other,
Okay, we're gonna let this
well,
go
maybe it
over
wasn't
here.
as
Go on.
dark, but when we looked at the other holothurian, the purple one,
Camera back to you.
it looked like its intestine was filled with kind of dark stuff too, although it was lighter than this.
Yeah, it was pink. Just because the body was kind of reddish purple.
Yeah, I don't know. Allison Miller know more about these animals and their lifestyles, as well as some of the other echinoderm specialists, Chris Ma as well. I'm just trying to think if there's any clues we can get when we can actually see the gut as to what it does for a living.
Yeah, I think most of these sea cucumbers that we see swimming are in fact benthic feeders, and so they'll spend more of their time on the bottom But when they're disturbed or, perhaps when they're looking for a new place to feed, then they'll swim up in the water column and drift back down.
Thanks, Scott.
Come down for a landing. We'll see what we got in here.
Oh, we're zooming on a little white patch that has a fallen over
polychaete tube.
Polychaete tube. Is it? Do you think it's alive or has it succumbed?
I can't tell. Looks like what would be the head end is kind of dropped into the surface.
Yeah.